Okay, now that we've got the timing chain tensioner removed, you can see a little bit clearer the marks that are on the chain that help us align things when we go back to time it. This is pointed out in the service information as well. We'll sit here and we'll just take a look real quick. You can see the red links that line up on the timing marks on the upper camshafts, and on the crankshaft there's a yellow one. So very important to keep our timing right and visibly easy. Now we're going to work on our camshafts, getting them out. We have to pay close attention to the stamps that are on the camshaft caps. You'll notice there's an I and an E. I standing for intake and exhaust for E. And they're in numerical order, starting from the front, back, 1 through 5. And in the front, there's one large cap that holds both the camshafts. So very important that we pay attention to this. These are married components. And there's another list of numbers. This is the tightening sequence for the camshaft so that we don't break them. They're very hard, so they can snap very easy. So we want to tighten them down and loosen them up in the opposite direction of the tightening sequence to release the stress. So here we go. We're going to take this off. All of our caps, we're going to keep them in order, being very neat, so that when we go back together with it, we get them all back in the same spot. So we're going to zip through this right now. We loosen them up about a half a turn each to relieve the stress on the camshafts, to gently let them come up because there's pressure on them from the valve springs that are underneath there. Notice the E2, exhaust 2, again, we're just pointing out these stamps that are there to kind of give us direction on the location of where these go. Very hard to intentionally mess this up if we're paying attention. Once we get it loose, we're going to get all the pieces out of the way. Last one right now. And now we've released the exhaust side. And our intake's off. So we're going to lift these up, just take a quick look. Something that you'll learn later on is a term called lift and duration. You'll notice these are called cam lobes. These cam lobes differ between the intake and exhaust side. You'll notice that one has a much more pronounced angle at the top, and the other one's a smoother, longer run out. And we'll get into what lift and duration does later on in your automotive training to manipulate fuel mixtures and valves and so forth for more power or more efficiency, depending on what we're trying to do. Keep in mind that the intake camshaft on this has a variable valve actuator that allows us to adjust the timing. It's called either advance or retard it. And we can do that depending on what the engine demands of the car are at the time. So we'll show you here. You see the front rotates. There's a little lock in the back of it. Oil is fed up through the camshaft through an actuator, and then can drive this through those holes. Will cause this camshaft to rotate one way or the other, either advanced or retarded. And we'll get a little better look at that. And what we're going to do, that front there, typically take those bolts off, and you can actually see inside this camshaft actuator these cavities where the oil is forced to force the camshaft to push left or right. It actually will rotate inside that unit to get us the advanced or retarded position that we need for the desired condition we're driving the car under. So typically if we get on the gas a lot, we might want to advance. So these now are the valve lifters. It's critical that we keep these in order. These are married parts. We've got a sheet here. We're going to number these as they come out. So we're going to keep them in order, and each one has a designated number identifying a specific valve shim that's been put in there. Very important that we get these back together in the same spot. Otherwise, we could, cause further damage down the road. So we take these out, and you can see right inside, if you pay attention here, very closely, there's a little number in there, 37. So we're going to write those down on a piece of paper just to help guide us when we go back together to make sure we get them all back in the same bucket. pull them out real quick. I can't say enough about the need to do this in an orderly fashion, paying attention to these little inscriptions and so forth that are there, because they do mean something. You throw this all in a box and you try to put it together, probably going to have an engine that has some issues down the road. So we don't want that to happen. So we're going to pull these out. Sometimes they're a little tight. We can use a little pocket magnet sometimes to get them out. Set them all aside and put all of our numbers down. You can see on the sheet. Makes it really easy when we go back to reassemble. We know exactly what's supposed to be in what position. And like I said, sometimes they're a little bit more difficult to get out, so we'll give them a magnet, or you can use a set of needle nose pliers and pull these buckets out. Underneath here are the valves and the valve springs that actually get pushed down on with the camshaft, those lobes that we saw previously. And that is what causes our exhaust and intake valves to open and close, the camshaft rotating on top of those buckets.